Every man has lived this moment. You try your best, you show up, you stay quiet when you could fight, you give more than you should, and somehow, you still end up being the problem. It starts small, a comment here, a little jab there. You brush it off, but over time, it builds into something heavier. You feel it in your chest, in your tone, even in how you move around her. And the crazy part is that when you finally say something, she looks at you like she has no idea what you're talking about. Today, we're breaking down the things women do that turn normal men resentful, and how they flip the script and blame you for reacting. It starts subtly. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious. Maybe she forgets to say thank you for the little things you do, like making her coffee or helping with something around the house. At first, it doesn't seem like a big deal. You're not looking for praise, right? You're just trying to be a decent human being. But the more you do it, the more invisible it becomes to her. You pour her coffee every morning before she wakes up. You fix the thing that's been broken for weeks. You handle the errands she forgot about. You do it because you care, because you want to make her life easier. Because isn't that what love is supposed to be? And yet, nothing. No acknowledgement, no thank you, no recognition that you even did anything at all. At first, you tell yourself it's fine. You don't need a medal for being decent. But weeks turn into months, months turn into a pattern. And that pattern starts to feel like a statement that says your effort doesn't matter, that what you do is expected, not appreciated. When you finally mention it, when you finally let her know you noticed, suddenly you're overreacting. You're being petty. You're keeping score. You're making a big deal out of nothing. And just like that, your valid feeling becomes your character flaw. That's the first step. You begin to feel like your efforts are wasted. The gratitude you hoped for doesn't arrive. The appreciation you wanted never comes. Instead, you start to notice the pattern. The small things you do are expected. Your effort becomes invisible, and you begin to shrink a little inside. You start doing less because doing more never mattered anyway. And she notices that, but not the months you spent trying. Then it escalates. Not loudly, not with fights or screaming, quietly, slowly, like a tide you don't notice until you're already underwater. She starts to shift expectations without telling you. One day she wants you to be more attentive. The next she wants you to step back. One week it's, why aren't you helping enough? The next it's, why are you hovering? And every time you're wrong. You start paying closer attention. You start trying to read her mood before you speak. You calculate whether this is a good time to ask something or if you should just stay quiet. You adjust your tone, your approach, your entire way of being around her. You become a student of her emotions, constantly studying, constantly guessing, constantly wrong. This is exhausting. You're always adjusting, always trying to figure out what she wants. And no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. That effort you're putting in, she doesn't see it as effort, she sees it as your obligation. And obligation, by nature, is not admirable. Obligation is expected. You can do everything, bend yourself into shapes you didn't know existed, and still the response is disappointment. You watch her face when you walk in the room, trying to gauge if today is a good day, or if you've already done something wrong without knowing it. You replay conversations in your head, searching for the moment you said the wrong thing. You start apologizing for things you're not even sure you did. And she lets you. She lets you carry that weight. She lets you believe that if you could just figure out the right formula, everything would be okay. But there is no formula. The target keeps moving, and you're left chasing something that was never meant to be caught. The resentment grows because of how she communicates. Or doesn't. It's never direct. She doesn't tell you clearly that something bothers her. Instead, it's a sigh, a look, a quiet comment under her breath, a tone that cuts but leaves no evidence. These small signals chip away at you over time. Death by 1,000 paper cuts, each one too small to make a scene about, but together, they bleed you dry. You start doubting yourself. You start asking questions that never get answered. Are you okay? Did I do something? What's wrong? And she says nothing. Or worse, she says, I'm fine, in a voice that clearly means you should already know what you did wrong. So you search your memory like a detective, investigating your own crime, and you find nothing, because sometimes there is nothing. Sometimes her mood has nothing to do with you, but she makes you feel like it does. And then, when you finally respond, when frustration or hurt or confusion finally breaks through your careful composure, she gaslights him. She frames your reaction as the problem. You see it now, right? You've been set up without realizing it. Her dissatisfaction is constant, but her criticism is subtle. By the time you recognize it, resentment has already taken root. It's already growing in the places where love used to live, and she's the one watering it while telling you you're the gardener. Another thing that builds resentment is the way men start getting cut off from their own support, from their own lives. It doesn't happen overnight. First, it's small. Your friends? She subtly undermines them. They're not good for you. They're immature. You always come back different after seeing them. Your hobbies. She makes you feel guilty for enjoying them. You spend more time on that than with me. I guess that's more important than us. Your family. They're too opinionated. They don't understand. They never liked her anyway, right? Before you know it, you're alone in your own life, living in a bubble where she's the only voice you hear. And in that vacuum, everything she says carries more weight. Everything she disapproves of hits harder. You stop mentioning your friends. You stop planning things you enjoy. You stop calling your mom as often because it always leads to tension. You cut away pieces of yourself thinking it will bring you closer to her. But it doesn't. It just makes you smaller. And she never acknowledges what you gave up. She just finds new things to criticize. When you start reacting naturally, because anyone would in this situation, you're blamed. You're accused of overreacting, being distant, being cold. But you've been pushed there. You've been isolated, criticized, and diminished until withdrawal felt like the only safe option. And now that you've withdrawn, you're the problem. You're the one who changed. You're the one who isn't trying anymore. Have you noticed the way she monitors your life? Who you talk to, where you go, when you respond to messages, what you like on social media. She frames it as care, concern, love. I'm just worried about you. I just want to know what's going on. Why are you being so secretive? But it's really a control mechanism. And here's the cruel twist. The more you comply, the more resentful you become. The more transparent you are, the more she critiques. You show her your phone freely, and she finds something wrong with a message from a coworker. You tell her your plans, and she finds a reason they're inconsiderate. You check in constantly, and she says you're only doing it because you feel guilty. It's a trap. You can't win. You follow her rules, and she dislikes your compliance. You rebel a little, and you're selfish or uncaring or suspicious. Your emotional labor, your constant effort to prove you're trustworthy, becomes a weapon against you. And when you finally resist, when you finally assert that you need privacy or space or autonomy, she positions herself as the victim. You're hiding something. You've changed. You don't love her anymore. Even intimacy becomes a battlefield. You try to connect, and it's criticized. You don't try enough, or you try too much. You're too rough, too soft, too mechanical, too distracted, too eager, not eager enough. She frames your natural desires and limitations as failings, but she never admits her own role in the dynamic. She never acknowledges that desire can't survive in an environment of constant criticism. And over time, the resentment bleeds into the bedroom. Sex becomes performance, not connection. You're thinking about whether you're doing it right instead of actually being present. Affection becomes transactional. If I do this, maybe she'll soften. If I initiate now, will she reject me again? Emotional closeness? Rare. Because you can't be vulnerable with someone who uses your vulnerability as ammunition later. And here's the part that kills men silently. The resentment you've been building, the resentment she created through months or years of these patterns, she blames you for feeling it. She positions herself as innocent, shocked, hurt. How could you possibly feel upset when she's the one dealing with all your problems, your distance, your coldness? And the most painful part is the self-doubt it creates. You start wondering if maybe you are too sensitive, maybe you are overreacting, maybe you are the problem. Maybe all of this is your fault. Maybe if you were better, stronger, more patient, more understanding, none of this would be happening. You carry the weight of her unhappiness and your own resentment, and somehow both are your responsibility. Step back and look at the pattern. It's not about one comment, one fight, one disappointment. It's the slow accumulation of unacknowledged effort, moving expectations, subtle criticism, isolation, emotional surveillance, intimacy as a performance, and blame for your own feelings. All of these together grind a man down, slowly, quietly, methodically. And she never has to raise her voice. You're doing it to yourself in her presence, shaping yourself around her dissatisfaction, erasing yourself to avoid conflict. And she blames you for that too, for being less than you were, for not being the man she fell for. As if she wasn't the one who spent years filing you down to nothing. Over time, men become quieter, colder, more resentful. They shrink emotionally, socially, and sometimes professionally. They give less because giving more never mattered. They withdraw more because presence invited criticism. And when they finally speak their mind, when they finally say enough, they're accused of being unreasonable, or cruel, or damaged. And here's the insidious thing. They start to believe it. They start thinking, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I am broken. Maybe I am incapable of love. But the truth is simpler and sadder than that. You've been responding to a toxic pattern, and it's not about your inadequacy. It's about the way someone else has conditioned the relationship. It's about how you've been trained to accept less while giving more.
It's about how your normal human reactions to mistreatment have been weaponized against you. And until you recognize the pattern, the resentment keeps building. It fills your chest. It colors every interaction. It turns love into obligation and hope into exhaustion. You start wondering if all relationships are like this, if this is just what it means to be with someone, if maybe you're just not cut out for partnership. So what do? First, recognize it. Name it. Call it what it is. Repeated patterns that make you resentful and then blame you for that resentment. Don't minimize it. Don't excuse it. Don't tell yourself it's not that bad or that you're being dramatic. If it hurts, it hurts. If it's changed who you are, it's real.
Second, set boundaries. You don't need to justify every action or explain every decision. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to anticipate her dissatisfaction like it's your job. You're allowed to have friends, hobbies, time alone, privacy, feelings, needs. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say, that's not okay. You're allowed to stop participating in your own diminishment. Third, reclaim your life outside her control. Call your friends, make plans, spend time doing things that make you feel like yourself. Emotional independence is survival in this dynamic. It's oxygen. Because if she's your only source of validation and she's constantly withholding it, you'll suffocate. You need other voices, other perspectives, other reminders that you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not the problem. Resentment will fade when you stop feeding it, when you stop accepting treatment that creates it. Blame will lose power when you stop accepting it as truth, when you stop carrying responsibility for her emotional state and your own humanity. You'll find yourself again when you stop shrinking to fit someone else's impossible expectations, when you stop editing your personality to avoid conflict. A healthy relationship is a partnership. Both people grow together. Both people support each other. Both people respect each other's boundaries and humanity. If you're in a dynamic where you feel diminished, unheard, or blamed for your natural reactions, that's not partnership. That's manipulation. That's not love. That's a slow erosion of your sense of self. It's not sustainable. It's not fixable with more effort from you alone. It requires recognition, honesty, and change from both people. And if she can't see it, can't acknowledge it, can't take responsibility for her part, then you have a decision to make. So if you recognize this in your life, don't wait. Don't excuse it. Don't hope it changes magically, because it probably won't. Not without intervention. Not without both people being willing to look at the truth. Set boundaries. Reclaim your life. Stop participating in the destruction. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to the man you used to be before resentment took root. You owe it to the men who come after you, sons, friends, younger brothers, to show that resentment doesn't have to define a relationship, that it's okay to walk away from something that's killing you slowly.
And remember, if someone is consistently making you resentful and then blaming you for feeling it, that's not love. It's a choice they make every day. A choice to criticize instead of appreciate, to control instead of trust, to diminish instead of build up. And it's a choice you don't have to accept anymore. Think about the last time you felt light, free, truly yourself, not performing, not calculating, not walking on eggshells. Were they there? Or were you alone? Or with friends? Or pursuing something just for you? That feeling is your compass. That feeling is the guide back to yourself. Stop letting resentment grow in silence. Stop carrying blame that isn't yours. Recognize what's happening. Reclaim yourself. And refuse to take responsibility for what someone else created. Because your life, your peace, your happiness, it matters more than anyone else's momentary comfort or criticism. It matters more than keeping the peace at the cost of your soul. It matters more than being the good guy who never complains while he's being ground down to nothing. You matter. Your feelings matter. Your experience matters. And you deserve better than a relationship that makes you resent the person you're supposed to love. You deserve better than waking up every day wondering what you did wrong. You deserve better than shrinking yourself until there's nothing left. And if she can't see that, if she can't treat you like you matter, then maybe it's time to find someone who can. Or maybe it's time to find yourself again first. Either way, you deserve more than this. And deep down, you already know it.